If you can suspend disbelief, regarding Margie is quite an interesting episode of The Simpsons. This is the 20th episode of the 17th season, directed by Mike Frank Polcino and David Silverman. And Marge is trying to get a stain off of the floor, so she throws together all kinds of cleaning products, which you're not meant to do, and the fumes go to her head. I thought that was a nice way of telling people, don't do this. I've seen so many 5-minute hack videos on the internet where people are mixing together 1,001 cleaning products, and it's like, that's how you die. She doesn't die. She hits her head on a stool. She doesn't even like thwack down. She just kind of gently falls and then hits her head ever so slightly, but apparently it's enough to get amnesia. So you do need to kind of look past that. And when she's in the hospital, she wakes up, she doesn't remember anybody. By the time she gets home, she begins to remember everybody else, and then she starts remembering ridiculous things. But she doesn't remember Homer. And it's really weird because she calls him Mr. Simpson. She obviously acts very differently around him, and it's just really fascinating. And it's kind of like a world where they weren't together, and it's just so bizarre but really interesting, and I found it to be really weird. That's the only way I can describe it. I love stories of amnesia. Not true stories, but films about amnesia, because I think there are so many different directions you can take with the narrative. And what happened with this, I won't say what it is, I don't want to spoil it because I do recommend the episode, but what Patty and Selma set up for Marge and then how that unfolded I thought was quite interesting, and I quite liked it. I thought it was another what if kind of scenario if Marge's life had been different. It is heartbreaking though to see Marge being so cold towards Homer. It's not her fault. She very slightly tickled her head on a tiny stool. She can't remember anything. Well, actually, that's a lie. She can remember pretty much everything except Homer. But it's so weird to hear her calling him Mr. Simpson, and it's heartbreaking to look at Homer. And Homer gives this wonderful speech about her, which again I won't spoil by going into the specifics, but it was really moving. Really, really enjoyed this episode. Also, I have a question. Who was looking after Maggie? There was a scene where they walk into the house and Maggie comes out of a room and Marge recognises her. This is very early on in the episode. Who was watching Maggie? So I have questions. I have various questions. It's not a realistic episode, but I don't really watch The Simpsons because of how realistic it is. Whereas the emotions in it, I feel probably are realistic. I enjoyed it. It's thought-provoking, it's different, it's unpredictable. You have to look past certain things, but as long as you can do that, I think regarding Margie is a pretty decent episode.